In this presentation, I'm going to discuss our next assignment for our class, one of our last assignments for putting our CAT together. This will be the abstract, the clinical bottom line, and the implications for practice, education, and future research. So in our assignment here, you'll write your clinical question, PICO question. This reminds me of what your PICO question is. It's the main reason why I have you do that. I'll talk about abstract last. Clinical bottom line, I provided a video that will help you write this. This is where you answer your clinical question. So what's the answer? This is the most important take-home message available from evidence. So this should be about a paragraph. Again, cite your references. Look at the sample articles. Look at other CAT papers. Make sure you watch that other video about clinical bottom line. The next section, implications for practice, education, and future research. This is like the paper part of the assignment. You're going to need to really think through what you've been doing for the last several weeks, or however long time we've been working on this assignment. And you should give it a substantial amount of thought and writing. I want it to be between 4 and 6 solid paragraphs. And you're going to be citing references throughout this section. Now, this section synthesizes your comments from the summary of the tables, 2 through 5, whatever number of tables you have, depending on the number of articles, where you summarized each article and appraisal of each article. And you may mention other research, both qualitative and quantitative. So this is when, as it says later in the bullet points, this is where you can bring in other articles that were published beyond the 5 or 7 year limitation. Discuss the benefits and limitation of using the intervention in clinical practice, the need for educating fellow healthcare providers and patients about the main conclusions, and provide suggestions for future research. How can we strengthen the level of evidence in future studies? Comment on whether the intervention is used in your region, your institution, or by preceptors. So I'm going to go over and look at some sample articles. Okay, so here's one. The first paragraph is basically telling us the results. They remind us of what the purpose is. I don't want you to just rehash the clinical bottom line. So one paragraph providing our summaries of what you found. I would say at least two paragraphs on how this material is utilized in clinical practice for other athletic trainers, other healthcare providers. I would say at least a paragraph, maybe 2, educating other healthcare providers about that particular area, the main conclusions, and at least one paragraph, well, it can't be less than one paragraph, one paragraph, maybe 2, but I would say probably 1 paragraph for suggestions on future research. So as you can see in this particular article, there's, I think, 7 paragraphs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs discussing this. And if I can find the other, and this is another article, same kind of thing. The goal of this CAT was to blah blah blah, and they reiterate the strengths recommendation based on these articles. And then they provide, let's say we got 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs in this particular article. So again, I recommend reading some of these other articles. Go find some other CAT articles to help you write this section. Okay, that's one section. The next section is going to be the abstract. Again, you want to write the abstract last. So write the clinical bottom line, write your implication sections. So then you're going to write your abstract. The clinical scenario, you've wrote your clinical scenario earlier in the class. Probably need to update that since you've written that. This would be 1 to 2 sentences here for the clinical scenario. Provide your clinical question, which you've already done. That's the PICO question. Should be exactly the same. Summary of the key findings. Let's see if I can see one of these. All right, so here's a good example. Summary, this will be the key findings here. Again, 1 to 2 sentences. Clinical bottom line, 1 to 2 sentences. Let's look at our paper, or my paper here. And strength of a recommendation. A brief description of the strength of the evidence following a critical appraisal. Include the grade using the strength of recommendation taxonomy. So this would be a maximum of 600 words of the abstract. Again, you want to write this last. And again, look at the sample papers to help you with these sections. I'll read all this and give you feedback before you write your rough draft of this assignment.